Hey, friends. An image came to me a few days ago. I was reflecting on how it feels when we're kind of deep in the process of what I call inner work, or spiritual practice as a catch-all phrase. But basically that process of making ourselves more conscious, allowing ourselves to evolve consciously. There are any number of experiences we have along the way, and one of them is what for me remains an ongoing experience, and I think for probably many of us remains an ongoing experience of seeing aspects of ourselves that we would rather not see. Right? Ever had that? Ever had to face something in yourself that you wish you didn't have to look at? Yeah, me neither. So there's a kind of cringing that can take place when we have that experience, right? It's like, and we very quickly, we will find, if we're willing to kind of watch, we'll find that pretty quickly we try to dive into behavior or thoughts or food, anything that comfort, anything that gives us a brief release from having to face the icky thing about ourselves. And I call this running from our shadow. And it's something that, I think all of us do it. I think unless we are fully conscious, fully realized beings, and we essentially know every inch of our own subconscious, then we're going to do a little bit of this running from our shadow thing. We're going to find things about what we see in ourselves that we don't want to see. And the kind of key in all of this is not necessarily to aspire to make that end, although I do believe that's possible. I do believe I've certainly witnessed some people who I kind of sense that they're there. They've done a pretty thorough inventory of their subconscious, and there's not a whole lot more that they're avoiding. But we can only work with what we can see, right? You gotta, whether that is in the external world or in the internal world, we can only work with what we can see. So that means that whatever's here now, whatever the thing is that's showing up right now, is kind of all we have to worry about. We don't need to fuss about about what might be lurking in our subconscious. That will become evident when it's time. We will see those things when they are ready to emerge and when it's right for them to emerge, when we have the bandwidth to see them and deal with them. That's when they'll come out. So that what that does to me is kind of put me squarely back into relationship with now, into relationship with where I am in this moment. What am I doing? What am I seeing? And if it's uncomfortable, if it's something that I would rather not see, then I almost want to throw my arms around it and hug it. I almost want to say, thank you for showing up. Thank you for this bit of insight into myself which has clearly always been there, because otherwise it wouldn't be there now, right? It's most of us are not, it's not that we see something bad about ourselves because we just became a worse person in the last week. We just like had a precipitous fall from grace, and now all of a sudden we suck, and we've got all this, dark shit that we just somehow manifested, right? Chances are this has been there for a while. We're seeing it now, which means we're taking a step forward. We're actually moving out of that darkness. Whenever we see our shadow, we are beginning the process of dissolution of that shadow material, which we can take comfort in. That's something we can take comfort in, even in the midst of the discomfort and the sort of icky, cringy feeling that most of us are going to have when we see that stuff. And I think the image of running from our shadow, that's what kind of flashed for me, I think a couple weeks ago, when I had this experience of seeing something and then observing how that underlying feeling of avoidance wanted to propel action. It wanted to propel me into action that would just distract me from it. And I was like, oh yeah, that's running from your shadow. That's like just straight up. Ooh, dark shit, I'm gonna run over here and just start doing stuff over here and pretend like this isn't there. I'm just gonna go focus on the light and just not look. And that's, we want to avoid running from our shadow if we can, because by running from it, we're just sort of like granting it permission to stick around, right? It's like the old expression about a bully. The only power that a bully has over us is our fear of them. Bullies tend to wilt in the face of courage and integrity and somebody who's willing to stand up to them. And it's the same with that content of our subconscious that we wish we didn't have to look at. It's precisely the not wanting to look at it that gives it power. Once we look at it, it becomes limited, no longer all encompassing or all defining. It becomes proportionate, right? It doesn't have outsized significance. It only has the significance that it has. And it generally becomes understandable. We become able to see it for what it is. We become able to see the origin of it. Not always. That can take some time, and it's not even the most important aspect of this process. But looking it in the eye always results in some kind of release from it. Because take away the fear factor, and our whole relationship to it changes, and then we're not running from our shadow anymore. Then the actions that we take can be taken with that consciousness. It can be taken with the awareness that maybe there's still some work to do. Maybe there's still some darkness we need to excavate. But I'm not going to go and just busy myself pretending like it's not there. And actually, ironically, thereby granting it permission to stick around longer, permission to dig in deeper. We're sort of saying, oh, I see you here. It's like the old expression about what do you do when a burglar's in your house? Do you confront them? Do you get a weapon? Do you fight them? No, just turn on the lights. Turn on the lights, because that type of energy is afraid of being seen, petrified of being seen. I'm not prescribing an actual policy for what to do when a burglar's in your house. I'm speaking somewhat rhetorically. But that's certainly how it works with the subconscious. That's certainly how the subconscious works. Looking at it, connecting with it, it's like an instant release. It's like having a full body massage instantly. Pretty good. You should try it. Stop running from your shadow. That's what I got today, folks. Thanks for watching. I appreciate you. Have a wonderful day. I'll see you tomorrow.